Let's talk about item recovery. It's been a little while now. I think, when did they put this out? March 4th. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks now since they put out plans for item recovery. And there's just so much to be said, while really also not being very much to be said. But we're going to get into it here and explain what the heck's going on. I'm not going to read through this whole thing. I'm going to show you the history of why we're here, how we got here, and what their plans have been up until now, and if this changes their plans. Because I think the biggest thing people are unhappy about is, one, the Tier 0 implementation and just the way that it's rolling out right now. And two, the unclarity, misclarity, disclarity, inclarity, the lack of clarity on how T2 is going to work long term, because people want this stuff to matter, and is crafting still going to matter, and why is there a dead man switch, and all these things. So first we're going to go all the way back to not that far. It's like 2 years ago, actually. In 2023, they kind of addressed this, and this is really where it all started. This wasn't about a all items sort of thing. This was about pledge items that you paid real money for. If I put $10 into this thing and then I go out into space and I lose this thing, did I just lose my $10? And after 3.15, or rather with 3.15, the game changed forever. From 3.0 and even before that, we did not have an inventory, folks. There was no inventory in this game. There was like a little tiny stupid thing. It's like wheel that was almost useless. This thing right here. Yeah, this little wheel thing we used to basically just pick up some rocks and put them in our pouch. I don't know, our belly. And this was not a great system, but it kind of was there. You just didn't carry things around with you. Generally, you would go and click on like anything you wanted to do. You would just open your Mobi-Glass and all of your stuff was there. Any weapon you had ever bought, anything you had ever used or picked up, anything that was yours, it was available to you just through your Mobi-Glass. And it was all that way up until 3.15 when they brought in the physical local inventory support. This didn't completely separate everything, but it did make it so that you had to start paying attention to where things were. And with that, we got loot for the first time, so the ability to actually pick things up and store them. We got backpacks for the first time. This was when the game really changed a lot with 3.15. This is like the biggest update we had gotten up until that point, I think, besides maybe object container streaming. And so it was a big shift. Suddenly now you could lose the stuff that you had. It wasn't just there all the time on your Mobi-Glass. And people started to slowly over time use their subscriber gear less because it was nice, it was cool, you paid real money for it, and you didn't want to have to lose it. And as we kept going on, the wipes got longer and longer, and then people didn't want to do character repairs as much. So suddenly if you lost your subscriber gear, there wouldn't be a wipe for 10 months, 18 months, and you wouldn't have your stuff for a long time. And it was like, okay, I don't want to lose that. I won't use it. So people kept asking for, how do I get my pledge items back? Like, can we have a way to get those back? Because those are something we can't buy in the game. We can't find in the loot. We can't get this back in any other way than through the store. And that's kind of lame. So they came back with this response in 23 and they said, player inventories have been introduced and players will now lose all their carry items should they die, as they will remain with the player's corpse instead of staying with them upon respawning. You will need to return to where you died to recover your items on your own. Items lost will only be what you were carrying at the time of death, and anything safely stored in a landing zone will be retained. That's always been nice, but I've never relied on that. I don't even know if it works correctly. This is why it is important to take care of your health and request assistance should you find yourself incapacitated. Oh my god, Star Citizen, are you forcing me to play multiplayer? Ask for assistance? The fuck? This also applies to items from the pledge store, including subscriber items. However, the pledges for these remain attributed to you on your account even though they may be lost in game. We are examining solutions for recovering these looted pledge items in the future. But for now, your items will return on the next major patch game update. So that's what I just freaking There's something in my eye, I'm sorry. That's what I just described. You wouldn't get it back until the next update. They were clearly trying to tell us that they were working on something for pledge items. And then they said, this is intended functioning of the system and no RSI support cannot assist with recovering items lost to death if they are taken by someone else before you can retrieve them yourself. As far as I'm aware, they still want to support that. So then we go forward, what is this? Like 4 months. And we were getting close to the point where they wanted to do like all of this hangar stuff, hangar systems and
container boxes, so that you'll still
container boxes, like all of this cargo stuff that they were redoing. This is the time when they were first started to talk about it. They were still a year away from us getting this, right? We got this in September 2024. This is September 2023. So back then they wanted to make it clear that they were working on something for this. Here is that segment.
America Persistent Universe team. So let's go ahead and let them bring it all home and see if we can't maybe just sneak in one more tiny, big addition people have been waiting for too.
Another big thing that we're working on is unique item recovery. This is something that the fans have been asking for a long time, and we're hoping that it's really gonna finally resolve this problem of losing items or losing items mid-mission.
It looks like a simple subject, but there's a lot of little things to think about, like people buying some gear, giving to their friend and claiming it back. What happens to the version that was given to their friends, or even like if your body gets looted by somebody, how do we want to kind of cope with that?
So one of the ideas that we have running right now is that you would have a lost and found within your hab. So if you're playing, your mission crashes, you lose your progress, but you can go back to your hab, restart that mission, grab that item, and continue on where you left off. And we're really hoping to apply.
This is what we're going to talk about today, because this is like the kind of thing that people want. They just want you to be able to, yeah, I lost something, let me go to a kiosk and get it back through insurance or something. So that's what the main part of this conversation is all going to be about. But like, they've had these conversations. This is, again, it's like a year and a half ago.
Apply this to subscriber items and other unique items as well.
I think in the long run, we have a lot of plans. Just really trying to build out a feature set that can incorporate a lot of different ships, that can incorporate your teams, that allows you to be more in control. It allows you to try to find the best ways that work for you and your group. And right now, that's the main thing we're working on.
Our universe is big. We're going to keep building more systems, more planets, and we really want to find a way to make that exciting. We want to have you take goods from one planet to the other, explore places that you haven't seen, loading up, organizing all of your gear, all of your equipment, having it snapped to a grid, keeping everything safe. And it's a huge part of Star Citizen and where we want to go with the game.
That is a summary of that we're working towards for physicalized.
Okay, so they really didn't even say too much. They just said that they want to do a kiosk where you can recover that kind of stuff. Now, I think there was another place where they... Hold on, let me see if I can find it on here, because I don't even know where that would be. But we're going to go from there. We're going to talk about what they mentioned at CitizenCon last year, because there is also... Oh, they really only talked about it on these?
Larger cargo item support, kiosk changes, the item bank, and even unique item recovery. So
Yeah, unique item recovery is really the main thing. Other than that, though, as you can see, they haven't really said too much about that officially. So now, if we go back to the thread that was posted just previously to this, and before we get into really what they've announced for 4.1, we read the first part here. And it says, at CitizenCon 2954, we shared our long-term design for crafting, insurance, and item ship recovery. If you need a refresher, both presentations are available on YouTube and will be helpful. Watch before diving into this post. They're not giving us any caveats here. I'm always going to say, take it with a grain of salt. Was that Adam Jensen's voice actor? Elias Turbone? I can't remember his last name. No, that wasn't him. That would be so cool if he was in this game. I would take it all with a grain of salt, of course, but it's also important to note that what they said at CitizenCon last year is kind of like both their scaled back vision and also their exceptional vision, because some of the stuff that was planned is not sounding as in-depth as it was. This being kind of one of those things. But what they said during those presentations still should be able to tell us more about how this stuff works. I want to go back to how they say that the ship version of this is going to work, because this gives us some insight into how they want the game to work.
Now, as we have Death of a Spaceman, we also need Death of a Spaceship. Losing your ship should be significant. Right now, for example, over 90% of all claims in the verse are for ships that have not been destroyed. And this is where ship insurance and our new warranty mechanic comes in.
Okay, this is where I think things are a little weird. I am not sure why they don't just apply this exact same system to everything. But maybe there is some reason, and maybe they'll explain it. Maybe it's just something that I'm missing. I'm not even thinking of. But the way that he's about to explain this working out seems like a little bit different from how they're doing inventory item recovery.
First up, we'll have 3 tiers of insurance, with level 1 being chassis insurance, level 2, chassis and component insurance, and level 3, chassis, component, and decorations insurance. Now, insurance by itself will only pay out credits based on the wear and age of your ship. Insurance...
There. That's what people want. And I think there should be some, the idea of getting the weapon back, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, is the same as getting the ship back, right? And getting the ship back that's a big deal. It's a lot different getting the money back for the ship than just getting a new ship. Even in real life, if you got damaged, your car got damaged, there's a big difference between getting the money sent to you or getting the work that needs to be done on your stuff covered versus just getting a new vehicle or something. Not an exact analogy, but this is like the big complication that's not really an item recovery.
I think you want to listen to this bit because it's important. Insurance with a warranty, though, will give you back a new ship, plus any other equipment or decorations based on the tier of insurance you had. Okay, so this is
basically what they're saying there is if you have insurance, you'll always get something back. But if you have a warranty on top of that insurance, you'll get the ship back.
The bit you need to listen to. All ships bought on the pledge store will come with a permanent warranty and their appropriate insurance.
So now at this point, if you apply that to item recovery, this would basically be just saying you have a kiosk in your room, and that kiosk has the list of all of the things that you have owned and lost. If those things are insured, you can tap the button and get the item back. That raises your insurance costs, but you still get you get the money for that item back. You can go and buy it. If that is a pledge store item, you tap the button, you get the pledge item back instead of just the money. That's the way I don't see why it's not applied like that. They basically just tied your ability to get your ship back to a warranty, and then they gave everybody a warranty if they got that ship with real money. So that is ship recovery. And I think there's a little bit more here about the insurance claims. Let's listen to this a little bit.
Now, what about claim timers? It's another fun topic.
So this is claim timers. We already have this in game on the ASOP terminals when you're claiming your ship, but that's going to slowly change from just an ASOP terminal to an actual insurance sheet that kind of gives you an idea of, okay, this is what each of my ship's value is and how long it takes for them to be made.
And getting your ship back without a claim. Well, we want claim timers to be proportional to the crafting timers. This means it's more beneficial for you to go back and get your original ship. For this, we're going to be introducing a shuttle ship, just like a courtesy car.
Now, this wouldn't apply to items. They're not going to give you a shuttle to go back and you can get your gun. But the claim time thing and the crafting time thing, like if you can't pay the insurance cost for something, then they should at least let you pay in time, right? Just like ASOP terminals work right now.
You'll be able to claim the shuttle at no extra cost to most locations and then fly it back to your original ship. Once back in your ship, the shuttle will automatically return home.
Oh yeah, no, Monk, you're right. The claim timers are going to go up quite a bit, I think.
If your ship has been legitimately lost, though, then you'll need to claim it back. And as we'll be increasing claim timers, this will mean some ships will take longer than others, with starter or small ships always being readily available, and larger capital-sized ships taking a long time. So it's always better to try and get your ship back if possible.
So I think this should just be applied to items. And when you do get an item back, if you do have, for some reason, the ability to get the item back, whether they tie that to insurance, whether they bring warranties over to items, whatever it might be, they should just have you always get back the most basic tier of whatever that item is. So you're not taking away the urgency or the need for crafters building and upgrading these guns and armor and stuff, but you're also kind of giving people an out to get back to the stuff that they want. I see a comment in chat. I'd rather have the item. It takes way too long to gear up in this game. Traveling to different stores to build out my kit when I die is tedious. But you gotta remember, everybody, anytime you think about how these things are supposed to work, specifically when you're looking at these kinds of posts, this is not being made for the game right now. Tier 2 has almost nothing to do with what we're doing right now. The idea that you would get money back to buy the thing that you want is kind of honestly related to the video we did before this with the Apollo. Check it out, guys, if you're watching on Space Tomato 2. You're not going to be dying that much. You're dying a lot less. And when you are dying less, or even when you're rather not dying less, getting geared back up in this game will also be easier because you're going to be able to save loadouts. You're going to be able to have stuff stored a lot more. We're still playing in a game that gets wiped constantly, and that changes how we think about losing stuff. It's kind of like they can't make decisions on how GTA 6 is supposed to play 4 years ago, because if they did, when they released it now, the players would get something completely different than what they planned. They have to have some level of faith in that the different things they're creating from all here are going to come together here at some point in the future to actually make a game that works. Let's listen to what they have to say about blueprints. I don't know if this has anything to do with the pledge gear or they said anything, but listen to this and then we'll look at the post.
Blueprints. Before you can craft anything, you'll need a blueprint. Blueprints provide the recipe to perform all kinds of crafting processes, including refining. You can acquire blueprints through various activities. Some you can buy, some you can find, and some can be unlocked or earned in other ways. You can also upgrade your blueprints through research. We'll go into more detail about what this means a bit later. So, blueprints are the recipe, and Rick already told us the materials you gather and refine will be the ingredients. But there's a bit more to it than that. We have a new concept for materials: material quality. Quality is a property we're adding to all resources you can gather. That's an abstract make of this resources is best desirable for all rules. All side quality, we're in the purpose to all guarded the item stats. Each item will be provided research I could have. To go even further, researching your fabrication blueprints allows you to build higher tiers of an item with improved base stats. So a higher tier item will be better than a lower tier item that was made with materials of the same quality. Making high tier
So
items...
this is like, you gotta lose this if you're getting an item back, right? They can't just give you the same tiered item back. No, I don't think this doesn't talk about blueprints with pledge store stuff. Let's go through here real quick and see what the T0, T1, and T2 are. So tier 0 is the initial. This is coming out with 4.1. This is what most people are unhappy about. And I think it's not a hot take to be unhappy about this. But it's also not a hot take to just not be bothered by it. The way this works basically is that items stored in your inventory will not be protected and are going to remain on your corpse after you die. So this is your guns and your armor. Basically, when that happens, it'll be locked and only available to you when you respawn. And you'll just respawn in the medical bed with that stuff already on you. This is how death worked prior to 3.15, and it's how people have wanted this to work. I want to be super, super clear here. People have been screaming and gnashing teeth and just getting all kinds of angry for this. And I'm going to be a little bit bitter because I think that a lot of the complaints about this kind of thing come from people who really aren't the target audience for what Star Citizen's supposed to be. The people who want to respawn with all their stuff already back on them, just like play Arena Commander or play other games where that happens. But at the same time, this is not permanent. They're only doing this to appease the people who want to play like that. This is literally just another sign of CIG going playability first. They hit server meshing and now they're like, we're just going to do everything we can to try and get people back into this game and make sure it's a playable experience, and try to get the largest amount of people back into testing and playing. And the largest amount of people are the casuals who are sick of dying to glitches and having to go and re-get their stuff again, which I totally understand. The problem with this is that it is going to create an expectation that the game works a certain way, and then when it stops working that way, all of those people are going to come back and say, oh, they're killing the game, it's not working, they're doing this new stuff that's making it worse. Because we go over this every single time they do this. Okay, they don't make heat or power management have problems on your ships. So what do we see now with engineering comeback? They're overcomplicating it. They're adding in too many things. We didn't have hover mode stay into the game because it made flight too freaking weird at low speed. But now that they're working on control surfaces and something that's akin to hover mode, what are we going to hear when it comes back? They're making flight too complicated. Why are they bringing in these new things? We're learning about heat management and weapons. We're going to get the life support with the room system. We're going to get Maelstrom in the damage system, crafting in that, Death of a Spaceman. Every time they make this game work in a certain way in order for it to be playable, and then they actually start bringing back in the real features, we get a whole new wave of freaking drama. So that's what's going to happen with this. And it should be a fun time, but just know this isn't permanent. And while Tier 0 might not be so great, it's part of the journey towards actually getting to this stuff that we were looking at earlier. So the other parts of this are that items such as magazines and med pens that you have equipped on your body will be looted from your corpse. So you can still get ammo from people, you can still get their backpacks, anything in their backpacks. However, you will also respawn with those items. As duplication concerns for these types of consumables are less concerning at this stage. Are they still doing you respawn with the ammo too? So you get to keep your ammo and the people get to have it? You can still loot people's ammo? Continuing T0 item recovery applies to all forms of respawning, whether in a medbed on a ship or at your assigned landing zone. Yeah, that's not working very well in PTU, just a heads up. To ensure that your weapon in active use is secured as an equipped item, it will automatically be stowed to your holster upon death. So if you have 3 weapons, you might actually still lose one. If you die within a landing zone, you will respawn with both your equipped gear and your inventory. That's how it already works. And with T0, you will respawn with your previously equipped gear already attached to your character. Rykop, thank you so much for the super chat, mate. I really appreciate that on you too. Honestly, you are chill about whatever they do early days, except for the death of a spaceman thing. You can go for hours about how wrong it is with PowerPoints. Sorry, man. Sobs in Canadian. You're fine. Some people don't like it. Only problem with T0 you could see is someone keeping a med station nearby constantly being a threat with no downside to them. Yeah, but people can do that right now already. I was just describing to somebody last week. We had somebody at our, it was me and a couple of folks playing, and we were holding down a bunker, and they had a Cuddy Red outside with all the armor and all the weapons they needed, and every time they respawned, they just got it and came back in and fought us. You still have to go out and kill that spawn point. That's what they changed last year when they made it so that everything can respawn people. I'm also excited for Death of a Spaceman. I quite like consequence in games. That's why I think I was very drawn to RPGs growing up. Really, single-player RPGs are a lot of what I spent my time on. Obsidian specifically, I think, makes some of the better RPGs that deal with things like consequence. Knights of the Old Republic, freaking Mass Effect. I know that was BioWare, but you know they're close. Freaking Vegas. Fallout Vegas, like there's a Deus Ex. There's just a lot of really good games that make you pay for the decisions you make, and I love seeing that in Star Citizen. I'm glad that they've so far been sticking to that, and I hope that they don't change that. I'm genuinely sorry to the people who don't like consequences or annoyances in games. I hope they give us the ability to pay to get around them, and give you the chance to, avoid them. T1. This is the kind of big implementation. T1 loadout and ship registration. This is going to have a personal loadout, allowing you to register your equipped items, which can be reclaimed for a fee at specific kiosks or freight elevators. So that already is the part that I think is hurting people because there's nothing about blueprints here. Next step, looting and bricked items from T1. Once an item is looted, it remains usable until the original owner reclaims it or marks it as stolen. At that point, a dead man's switch is activated, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. I don't think that's a great idea. I think this makes a lot of sense for the ships, which is indeed what they're doing with the ships here. Actually, this is really cool. The piracy... Listen to this system. This works really well for ships, in my opinion.
Just without security forces. But before we jump into an unlawful system, let's explore what options you have if you pirate a ship. Okay, so first up, let's discuss ownership. All ships and high-value items that you own will automatically be assigned to you. This means if someone steals your ship, you can mark it as stolen, either via an insurance claim or in your Mobi. This will then trigger a dead man switch on the stolen ship, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. But what options does this leave as a pirate? Well, you can still salvage it. You can tow it back to your fabrication hangar to dismantle it for resources. Or, if you have a high enough rep with the council, our criminal guild, you can get the dead man switch disabled and pay for a new title deed to become its new owner.
So this is freaking sick, because this is like legitimate piracy. But it makes more sense for vehicles than weapons, in my opinion. I do think that there needs to be something that you can do when you get something stolen that allows you to mark it as stolen, and then that item should just get somebody else an additional crime stat in that area, right? We do this in other games. Things get marked as stolen, and then that affects you. At the very least, it should be marked as stolen. And I don't even think they say it here. Yeah, they just say, while a looted or stolen bricked item is no longer usable, you can still sell the item for items or credits. So, like, you can sell it, but... yeah, I don't know. There should be repercussions to holding on to it, too. And... hey, appreciate the super chat. CJ, thank you so much. The idea of dying too many times and eventually having to make a new character because of the in-game lore is really cool. I feel like it teaches you to be more careful and not be so cavalier with their life. Agreed, CJ. especially if you have to go through like 10 to 15 cycles just to lose that character. That could take a year. And then just copy the characters, look, and put it on the new character. I also want to mention, just to go back to Tier 0 real quick here, one of the things that we're missing is Star Citizen has had this one problem for a long time. Made a video about it last summer. Super combat focused. Almost every single video to come out of Star Citizen, I kid you not, if you go back to this video, Space Middle Combat Problem. And you watch the beginning of this.
It's just going to make the game, I think, feel a lot more like it's tying all the pieces together.
Some risks, and you might die and not make it out alive.
3.8.
Caterpillar mission is really
Every single trailer, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I'm pretty sure 324 was actually the first one, if I'm not mistaken. Where was that trailer? Where's the 324 trailer? I think the 324 trailer did not have combat in it, if I'm not mistaken. Either that or the 4.0. I don't remember which one. They have this problem where everything was super combat focused because it was so easy to make. And it was really the only part of the game that worked relatively well. We didn't have mining super good. We didn't have salvage. We don't have data running. No exploration. Cargo hauling wasn't a thing. None of those stuff worked until like these last couple years. So they've just been doing combat over and over and over again. And so all anybody thinks about when they're thinking about looting is combat. But they're going to start to put artifacts in this game. They're going to start to put in batteries. Fuses are a thing. They expanded the size of backpacks that nobody seems to be talking about. They made them freaking huge so you can store multiple guns in there. You can store armor in that. You can store all kinds of things in that. We're not carrying everything in our hands, folks. You can loot so much other stuff, even with the Tier 0 implementation. The only things that you're limited on are the armor and the guns. So, like, take a step back. It sucks, I know. It really eats into PvP. It does. But just, like, for a second, just consider that maybe over the course of the next couple of months, as they've already been doing, they're going to be adding in things that are more interesting to be looting. These key cards that we have that we need to get for certain missions. The fuses we're going to need for engineering. Medical pens, oxygen pens, maybe resources for life support. There's like more stuff that's going to be in backpacks and on people's bodies than just in their hands. And all of that's still free to loot. So it's not going to kill the whole game. I don't care if it's a trash system. It can be a trash system. That's fine. But this idea that it's just killing all of loot and there's nothing that's going to work because Tier 0 is just like, just take a minute, man. It's okay. It's okay to be unhappy about it. It's just the hyperbolic nature of it is like, it's too much. All right, let's move on to Tier 2 because this is like the most simple part, or rather the most simple change. Tier 2 is just basically making it so that when you do loot an item, you have the option to sell it, dismantle it for crafting, or to restore it with the potential cost of crafting and materials and credits to make it your own. This system creates a viable path for piracy, allowing you to claim another person's belongings if you take the necessary steps to legitimize ownership. So that actually does kind of sound like they're still going to do some level of you need to legitimize ownership or else you could get in trouble for it. But they don't mention it here. And this is really the crux of the problem is they're describing a massive system with just a few bullet points here and there. And there's probably a lot unsaid here that's going to make people not as unhappy about this. That being said, blueprints are important. And I hope that they have just stuff unmentioned here about blueprints. They said if an item has a cosmetic applied, restoring it will remove the cosmetic in the process. I will also think it should remove any stat changes, any crafting, any upgraded, anything like that. Give us the base item. They finish this off by saying the introduction of item recovery is a significant step towards making gear persistence more meaningful while maintaining the risk-reward balance of looting. Tier 0 and 4.1 is just the beginning, and as we further integrate into the broader crafting and insurance systems, We'll be actively refining and updating with the help of your feedback throughout the PTU process. So I'll tell you what, the best way to get them to change this is to go play 4.1, get the data, type out a real good summary of it, and explain why it is going to kill the game. What's going to end up happening is they will get a whole bunch of feedback telling them that T0 sucks, and that will encourage them to get to Tier 1 first. Unfortunately, the feedback we give them on how Tier 0 works is not going to get them to change how the entirety of item recovery works. So if you're angry about Tier 0 item recovery, the best way to handle that is to... I don't know. Because it's temporary. You can tell them what your problems are on it, but I don't know how important it is. Depends on how long it lasts. How long do I think it'll last? 2 years of no comp, different stats has you worried? Yeah, I don't think it's going to be 2 years. I think this is like a this year kind of thing. The only thing they really need to do to get people to start wearing backpacks again, if they were just if that ever is a problem, which it's not going to be a problem, everybody's just going to still wear backpacks. But if they really wanted to be like, okay, guys, let's show you that loot matters, they could just take let's see, I'm sure we have. I think we showed this last week. No, artifact. How about a singular artifact? There we go. They could just take these. Get a junior artist to work on them, throw them in the game, make them worth a couple tens of thousands of resources, and scatter them throughout Pyro. Whoop-de-doo. Suddenly, it's not all about what gun you're carrying, it's about what artifacts and minables they have in their backpack. Like, this is not a fundamental problem. The idea that looting is going downhill. I can see it being a problem with crafting and the necessity of that, but as far as like looting gameplay, this is a temporary issue. And as somebody who likes to loot, yeah, it's going to be a bummer, but it doesn't ruin the game for me right now.